What's up, everybody? Just want to take a quick second and let people know that I am self-supported. I now put all of my episodes on Substack for paid subscribers. I put them up early, and then 24 hours later, I release them to the public on all my platforms. I also have Venmo, PayPal, Cash App, Buy Me a Coffee, Zelle, a P.O. Box, and Locals, Patreon. And all of these, all of the links are in the show notes of every single episode I put out. So look forward to continuing to, provide great conversations. And thank you all for your continued support. For the record, I am not an interviewer. I am not a journalist. No.
You are.
I'm not. I just talked to Neil Howe. I was talking to earlier. And he actually, he said something at the end of it. We ended up talking for almost 2 hours, and he was referencing Larry King. And a friend of mine said that to me a while ago. He was like, "You're kind of like Larry King." Now, I was never a fan of Larry King. I mean, I saw some of his interviews. But he's like, yeah, Larry King would just ask a few questions and just go where it goes. And I don't know if I told you the story, but I haven't told it in a while. A friend of mine has been on Rogan a couple times. I tell you this?
I don't know. It depends on which friend.
Well, so he was on for, he's an ultra runner and he used to live in Phoenix. He's since moved to Austin. But I used to print off all these notes, like sheets and sheets of notes of my guests. And one in particular, when I went to LA and I did that one with Freddie Roach at his boxing gym.
Right.
It was the most nervous. It was like the 6th episode, and I was so nervous. Like the day before, I'm sitting in a hotel in LA, just trying to remember all this stuff and write things down.
That's the worst. Yeah.
And so I go down there, and we recorded in person. It was audio only, and I didn't even look at any of the stuff I had.
Right.
And I got stuff wrong. So I asked my friend. I said, when you go to Rogan was still in LA. I go, does he have a bunch of notes and stuff? He goes, no, he's just got a pad of paper and maybe a couple of things written down. And if it goes wherever it goes. And, if he covers everything, great. If not, that's okay too. And I was like, wow, it just takes the pressure off. So yeah, I'm not, so getting back to, I'm not an interviewer. I'm not.
You are an interviewer because, and it's very difficult for you to be interviewed. I found out the hard way.
I don't like it.
I know when you try to dominate,
here's why.
You always try to turn it back around. Oh no, I know. I'm just teasing.
No, but for people to know, because like people ask me to come on their podcast, and I need to. I'm not really good about following up when people do ask me, and I know it's good to do it. I don't find for people that are listening, I don't find myself that interesting. Okay, I don't do deep dives in real estate. All right, I'm not a former BlackRock employee like Ed Dowd, or a chemist at Cornell, or a Navy SEAL like Matt Bracken, or Michael Yan.
You just talk to all these people, which makes you incredibly fascinating.
I talk to all these people, but I don't have the life experience that you all, I sound like I'm from Tennessee, you all have.
No, we would not say you all. We would say y'all.
Y'all, excuse
Thank
me.
you very much.
Y'all have. I don't have that life experience, so I don't find myself that interesting. And I'm serious. I mean, Professor Steve Hanke. I mean, John Hopkins. All of his accolades. I don't have any of that.
He's
I got
just
a measly
person.
I know, but I got a measly marketing degree and a minor in finance, and I just ask open-ended questions.
And you've talked to all these people, and you've listened to them, and you've synthesized their ideas. That is incredibly fascinating. So, sorry, not going to agree with you here.
I read one book when I was a telemarketer. It was a what, where, why, how, and who. Ask 5 open-ended questions. That's it. That's where the origin comes from. That wasn't a book I read. I don't remember what it was. Zig Ziglar probably, or something. Remember Zig Ziglar?
It sounds familiar. I think I used to. My brain is full, Michael. Keeping track of these events is a full-time job.
So we're going to get to that. Zig Ziglar was this legendary salesman, and he might even started with Bibles, and he became like this.
I know that name.
Yeah, he was a Southern guy, real motivator. And then he started selling cassette tapes, and he was traveling all over the world doing motivational speaking. I saw him. He came to Arizona, I don't know, 15 years. He died, but 15 years ago. and they had him at the football stadium, the indoor stadium, and the jumbotron was a compilation of all his best speeches. He couldn't even barely talk anymore. They just had him up there. He had to be escorted up, but they had to keep making money from the tour. So they just had him, and he said like 2 words, and then they had his compilation of all of his best speeches.
Wow.
Which ironically is what they're doing to Frankie Valli right now. If you've seen any of those videos of Frankie Valli. You remember Frankie Valli, singer?
No.
Grease? No, you don't know Frankie?
Oh,
Valli?
Grease, yeah.
That's Frankie
I'm
Valli.
terrible with names, Michael. I'm terrible.
Well, he's in his 90s. He can't even lip sync anymore, and they're still putting him out on tour. He can't lip sync. Yeah,
it's terrible. That's terrible. That's terrible. Yeah, that's just sad.
it's watching it is sad. So this is what I spend a little bit of my time on too. So on YouTube. YouTube is my yeah. So anyway.
Yeah, I have to, I can't even keep up with you. So all my spare time is listening to podcasts or reading. So,
This is why you're so much more interesting than I am. And you do all this analysis on things. So what your brain is full right now with everything that's gone on. It started with Trump's decision to make homes great again, right?
I think it started a year and a half ago, but but yeah, it's certainly one of the reasons I'm a little, this week is.
This episode is brought to you by McElvaney Financial Group. Their advisors bring a depth of knowledge and experience that allow them to serve their clientele with care, ensuring their financial needs are met now and in the future. Personally, I'm not saying cash is worthless, but you can see what's happening. It's worth less every year. Gold is the opposite. Click on the promo link in the show notes or go to www.mcelvaney.com/coffeeandamike.
Been very busy is just because of those announcements last week. It's a similar week to when he had floated the 15-year mortgage, and everybody gets up in arms, and then the next day comes and there's something else to get up in arms about. And so, but yeah, that's like right now. And honestly, to be honest, I think I'm just very much impacted by, what's going on. I used to live in Minneapolis, went to grad school there, know a lot about that place, and know a lot about its tensions, and just, this makes me incredibly sad. And just the hatred and just how rabid everybody is over it. Like, it's just, and there's part of me that thinks they are like that, but it's not necessarily as bad as it was. That I feel like people are kind of a little tired of, all the violence, tired of, watching this stuff go down. So that'll be, is it escalating, or are we done? And this is the culmination. That's kind of where I don't know right now. What do you think?
In regards to Minneapolis, or just in general?
Just the violence, the political violence, escalating tensions, threats of basically civil war.
Well, maybe I share this with you. I feel like we're already in a civil war in regards to the state and federal. And, we had Chicago, the mayor, earlier in the fall.
Pritzker. Mm-hmm.
Well, Brandon Johnson was saying we're not going to comply, and Pritzker.
Pritzker's the governor, right? Yeah.
L.A. earlier last year. The No Kings protest last summer, and then there was I don't remember what the follow up was. It No Kings 2.0 or something?
Yeah.
Whatever it was called. So you're already seeing that where states are not cooperating, and but are we gonna? Do I see a kinetic march up and down the streets type of thing? I mean, I don't see it today or tomorrow. First of all, and this is just my opinion. I mean, I run every morning. I don't think I could run. I don't know if I could run a mile with an AR-15 on me. I'm not trained for any of that. And I would say most people aren't either. And there's a very small minority that would be able to do that. I don't see it, but
yeah.
Now,
I think that's what I mean is like, yeah, we saw this all starting, right? We saw, you and I have been talking about this for some time. We saw the way the states were responding, refusing certain things. And that's what I mean. Is this the culmination of all that? Is this it? Have we reached the point where people just don't want this? They don't want this kind of violence. They don't want to watch these kind of images. Or is this an escalation? And I guess that's where I'm kind of torn right now, torn down the middle about it. I mean, because even here in Johnson City, Tennessee, believe it or not, on Saturday, we had our 25 folks on one corner, a few others on the other corner, and um, we had much bigger protests here in 2020. So that tells me, okay, people just don't want that fight, and so maybe this is the culmination. But I got to tell you, I find it all very, the violence very upsetting, and it's not cool. Put it that way. For anybody involved, two families were completely destroyed. However you feel about it, that's the outcome.
Well, and also with that, I mean, and this is what I mean, Ed Dowd and I were talking about this yesterday. We weren't talking specifically about the violence, but in regards to, I feel like this can be avoided. And,
Oh, 100%.
well, and especially in pertains to your work, Carl Denninger was the one that first said this to me. If they arrested the employers and the landlords housing illegals, then people would just leave. Now, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they wouldn't just self-deport. But if they got nowhere to work and they got nowhere to live, they're not going to come over here, and the ones that are here are going to be gone.
Mm-hmm.
And housing prices will come down. Would you say dramatically, or I don't know? Because I brought this up to Neil, and he didn't think it would be as dramatic as he didn't interpret it as being as dramatic. That maybe I'm wrong, but
Well, I think there were a lot of factors. So I don't think it's as big a deal as some people are making it, right? But it is certainly a contributing factor. And certainly in certain of these sanctuary cities. But I think what it did, let's say not in one of the sanctuary cities. Let's take Texas. I think that people thought a crap ton of people were moving there because of all the traffic and everything like that. In reality, I think you had a lot of temporary workers. And that's more of what that was. And so people felt like, oh, everything's booming, bustling, because you had those temporary workers, a lot of them immigrants working on those construction sites. And so I think it just gave a sense that there was a lot of opportunity for building because there were so many people that I don't think that was really the case. And I've said that for some time. And then in the sanctuary cities, all those programs like Chicago giving people $15,000 in rental assistance that clearly, made rent prices. Chicago is one of the only places right now that has like year over year increases in rent, and that'll dissipate. And Portland, you had a $30,000 down payment program for immigrants only, like believe it or not. So yeah, I think those things definitely had factors, but I think overall it's probably I wouldn't say it's the only reason, which I think a lot of people are saying that home prices went up. No, they went up because of speculation. That's it. That's it. People were speculating. You had all kinds of investors, including the institutionals, including the mom and pops. The mom and pop, the institutionals really stopped in 2022. But that's what these home prices are about. Now, they were speculating and they looked at some of the evidence of the population gains and then the fact that you were seeing more household formation because more people were renting or more people were buying homes. Like 6% of FHA was immigrants, non-citizens. So it has an impact, but it is not the reason. So I think it's so to answer your question, I don't think it's that they're all leaving. I think it's that the the narrative is coming out of the bubble because there's not all this activity that everybody thought was happening. There's not all these booms in population that everybody thought was happening. And so that's really problematic for the municipalities because they thought that they were going to continue to see these population gains. But I do think it'll have more so the whole idea that they're not coming is going to be the narrative will have more of an impact than the actual like how much they were renting, how much, because like you say, I don't think we're going to have mass deportations. That's not what's happening. And so I don't think it would have a material impact.
They don't, and this is what Ed and I said yesterday, or I said it and Ed agreed with me. They don't, in our opinion, they don't want that to happen. They don't want mass deportations to occur.
Who's going to clean houses? I mean, who's going to farm, who's going to pick blueberries in Washington? Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
No, well, and that's so, but that also, if they had mass deportations and coming back to the landlord employers, wouldn't you have a lot of housing? Wouldn't that make housing prices affordable for people again?
It would be a contributing factor.
One of the contribute.
But my point is it's not the factor. Right. But yeah, I mean, you've got some crazy stuff going on in Florida where they're doing these pad splits, where like, 8 immigrants are sharing one home and they each have a title. I mean, it's insane. So yeah, it's going to have an impact, but it's just more than anything, Michael, it's about the speculation, in my opinion.
God, if they were talking ICE is going to come to Phoenix, I can't even imagine with all the construction going on here. And I'll know if they're here because if I see just these sites just empty on a Monday through Friday, I'm like, oh, ICE is here. Because that's what happened in Charlotte.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I mean, this is the funny thing. I think we've talked about it on your show before. But, I did all that traveling all over the country. And I saw this with my own eyes and didn't even feel like I could talk about it, because it was so inflammatory. At the time, you think a year ago even, but really 2 years ago, woo, you could not even mention the word without people just flipping out on both sides. So, yeah.
Well, and that's what makes you wonder too, is like you can say some of these things and you can post some of these conversations on these platforms that even a couple of years ago you couldn't do. Is that, I don't believe that these platforms had epiphanies, right? And said, oh, we were wrong. And, sorry, we're going to work to, you can speak more freely. Is it ultimately to just keep the divide and the rage and the anger?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, or like, okay, we can talk about this now, and yes, this will be divisive, so that's a bonus. It's very interesting to watch. I mean, hopefully, someone in the future will study these algorithms and study the way they kind of changed and transformed. When we were doing Doomers News Network, we could not even say, and I won't say it just in case it's still the thing. But that thing that has something to do with the weather, we could not say that without getting not a community note, but a note on the YouTube. So we started calling it cotton candy because, CC. we weren't even saying anything about it. We were just mentioning it as, this is a part of this story that we're telling. And it was wild. And it was just like, why did they feel it was so important to be so heavy-handed about that,
Well, my friend Mary Bowden was on a show with Jack Cruz, and I always get the two confused. Callie Means, the brother of Casey Means, and they couldn't even have her picture on the image. And then they were muting the virus. They muted the word. And I said to her, when I talked to her, I go, man, I remember as a kid watching like an R-rated movie on regular TV, and they'd have to either
bleep it,
they bleep it or that lousy dub over.
Uh-huh.
And, you can say every profanity curse word on YouTube, most derogatory things you can say, but you couldn't say some of those simple words. They had to mute it.
Right. It's wild. It's wild. And It's what's I think is more interesting is how few people really understand it. Like, they think that somehow they find what they're watching on their phones, even though they don't know how. Like, let's take my mom for instance. She's 72, and she thinks that somehow organically she's finding these videos, but she doesn't know how to use the search feature. So, and I'm not laughing at her. And then on the other end of the spectrum, I have a family member who's, I would consider a millennial, elder millennial, but she's definitely a millennial. Same. She doesn't, when we were talking about what went down in Minnesota and she's telling me she watched every single video, right? She only saw one. She didn't see all the other ones because that's what kept getting fed to her on TikTok. And so people are just unaware. I think if you're not in this, not doing it all the time, a lot of people just have no idea how they're being spoon fed a lot of this stuff.
Well, and the Somalia, I mean, that was just jammed down my X feed at one point.
Really?
And then Dan Bongino was jammed down my feed. I don't even follow him, but as soon as he made the return, I'm like, why am I seeing all this Bongino stuff from him? Mm-hmm. And then the new one is Susan Kokinda. I don't follow her. I don't follow, or maybe I do follow her. Okay, or maybe I'm wrong, but I don't follow her company. All her under her company stuff. Every one of the video clips and all these bigger accounts that I don't follow any of them are I'm seeing every single one of them.
Yeah.
Trump is going to Davos. He's going to take a sledgehammer to Davos, and maybe that is going to occur, right? Maybe but. Why is this being jammed down my throat? I don't follow any of these accounts.
It's very interesting. I remember when I was working for the Wall Street Journal in it was probably 1998. It was probably 98 or 99 when so my boss was the head of international, Pulitzer Prize winning journalist. Her husband was the managing editor of the Wall Street Journal. And of course, they went to Davos. I remember, their first class tickets were like $10,000. And these are journalists in the Wall Street Journal, theoretically. And it was such a big deal. Like, you had to try to get their room. Like, basically, Davos would be over and you would be trying to get their room for next year. And, they were very particular about it. Everybody that because of what it says about where you are in the pecking order. And it's just so funny how long ago that was, right? I mean, that was a long time ago, almost 30 years. That's how long, and so many people, I mean, if I had told people, oh yeah, they're going to Davos, nobody would have known what I was talking about back then. But now, I mean, this is, something that everybody knows what this is, the World Economic Forum and this thing. So it's kind of fascinating anyway.
Do you think in relation to like BlackRock and Blackstone and Larry Fink is now, believe is the head, isn't he the head of WEF now?
Something like that. Yeah.
But, and this is what, I don't know, and maybe I'm just way off base here. Maybe I'm sounding like I'm in a superhero movie when I describe this. That the old members, they're old. Like George, everyone wants to go to George Soros because you got to have good guys, bad guys. Mm-hmm. Blue, red. Batman's going to save us. Trump is Captain America. Yada yada yada. But he's in his 90s, and yeah, I know there's a foundation. He's got a son. But typically the sons, they never carry it out the way the parents did. Mm-hmm. And also, Soros, how much insider baseball information was he getting when he was crashing these currencies to make this fortune? But we've kind of gone off track here, but he's in his 90s. You don't even see the guy anymore. So
they're all replaceable.
I mean, how relevant? I mean, Larry Fink, I don't know. To me, I think the bigger threat, if you're talking about threats, is the big tech, right? Like Peter Thiel's and Elon and Sam Altman and Alex Karp. And
they're also anti-heroes, though. And, I think John Waters had the best description of Elon Musk on your show. Yeah, and I've long said, look at what he does, not what he says. But basically, he's basically a crisis actor on the global scale, right? If they need something to be said, if we're suddenly all going to get excited about rockets and space, or if we're going to get excited about, ESG or EVs, or we're going to get excited about driverless cars or whatever. I mean, they're the furthest from a driverless car. There's so many other companies that are doing it already, but he's kind of the front man for all of these different, and he pretends to be some kind of genius. I personally, sorry, have never seen that genius. I've heard told of it, I'm sure, but it's come on. So I think they're just all actors, right? And then they get taken off the stage, kind of like Sam Bankman-Fried, boom, off the stage. And that's what I'm really curious about this year, because I think one of these AI guys is going to get taken off the stage. And I have some ideas of who I think it's going to be, just because I think we're getting to the end of this one.
Well, so I want to get to that, but also with Elon, and in my, again, I could be way off, but when you're bound by government contracts, you can't do and say whatever you want. Especially when you are the richest man in the world, worth whatever, well, I don't know what it is now, $600 or $700 billion. You're not a free speech absolutist. You can't just go around and say, that has to factor into everything you do. And
Yeah.
I think we talked about this last time. Maybe we didn't, but like when Jensen Huang was going, speaking of switching over to AI, when he was on Rogan, a friend of
Yeah,
mine.
you told me. Yeah.
Oh, I told you about. Did we talk about that on here?
A little bit, yeah.
Oh, okay.
But keep going. It's
Well,
fine.
the first 15 minutes when he was saying how he started the conversation that he was with Trump and they decided to call Joe Rogan up, and that was not done by accident.
Right. Yeah. No. 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 And what I find so humorous, like, looking at X right now, what he's done to the app recently is just crazy. It's completely regressed. And I think it must have to do with how he's got to, you know, basically lie his way with the people that pay for ads. Because what it's doing, and this is a regression, if you know anything about technology, every time you click in your chat on like another tweet or whatever, you used to be able to like slide right back to the main page. You were going back and forth like this effortlessly. Now it opens up an entirely different window. And so you'll have like 7x windows open, which will make any, like if you're on the other end of this data, right? It's going to make it look like you're one person. Now you're 7 people in the app. And so I think that, these are the types of things that Musk is probably really good at. A lot of faking things, faking people. That's, the bots, for instance. So you and I were just talking about that. How many of our followers are really real people? And, I think it's probably half or less, probably much less. And so he's very good at these kind of games. But genius, no, but yeah, it's all sleight of hand is what I see, Michael. And, with Wang, I mean, that guy, it's just, it's crazy to see that leather jacket wearing guy who, I mean, honestly, shouldn't be around anymore just from the shenanigans he's done before. And so it's just a very bizarre time. And it's hard to stay sort of grounded and focused. I mean, that takes a lot of work, but I've been working really hard on it, to be honest. Just trying to not let myself get, carried away by all of this, because I mean, it's kind of like the Jerome Powell thing, right? I mean, people are so up in arms over this video that he did, and it just, I don't know, I might get some hate for this. It just made me laugh. I mean, what, he's a hostage now? I mean, what is, what? And I honestly think this is kayfabe. Powell can blame Trump. Trump can blame Powell. This is great theater. now all the central banks are backing Powell, and it's like, and people actually believe. I mean, I've seen people say things like, "Oh, Powell's now got balls of steel." I'm like, guys, come seriously. I mean, I'm sorry. It's just sorry. Maybe I don't know. I got really sick over the holidays, like probably the worst sick I've been in, I don't know, 10 years or something like that. And it just gave me a lot of time to think and just kind of clear my mind. I was so sick I couldn't even really like be looking at a screen, you know. And I sort of said to myself, during the election last year, not last year, but you know, in 24, you just felt like you had to keep checking, you know, social media, what's happening, what's going on. And I am just at the point now, I'm resisting that urge, and I'm resisting kind of spending too much time because, and also taking it seriously. Cause it's, I can't take the hostage video seriously. I'm sorry.
I never heard that part. And then it goes out on Sunday night too, which
Right.
like
Right.
the news breaks out that the DOJ is investigating him, and all of a sudden the video comes
So
out.
quickly, right? How did he get there? I mean, I'm sure he did get some heads up. You always do. When you're in these circles, somebody called him, you know.
I think they said, but wasn't he'd already been under investigation. I think it was back in November or something.
Who
But
knows?
why did the timing of the video release when it went to the public that he was being investigated?
Hmm. Hmm. And now, how convenient that, you know, Trump can say Powell always tanks the stock market, you know, and it's like, okily dokily, you know, okay, boys. It's just, I mean, I really do feel like it's like that game of wasn't there a game like with the wrestling ring with the wrestlers and you moved them around? Wasn't that like a game, like a board game that, do you know what I'm talking about? I can visualize, I can't remember the name of it, where you're just like, you know, they're just at each other, and it's just so ridiculous. I mean, I think that we have to start laughing because otherwise, because everybody else is going crazy, Michael. I mean, people, I mean, I got to tell you, over the last 36 hours, I have just been people that I really respect, people that I consider good colleagues, have kind of lost the plot. And I'm just like, what is happening? You know? Anyway, that's just me. That's just me.
I was trying to look up the board game while I'm listening to you because there was one where it was like you they would like punch each other
Yes.
until the head popped
Yeah.
up.
And it was like, yeah,
It
something
didn't
like
move
that.
well. It didn't really move well.
No, it didn't. It was terrible. So it was like this Jill. That's what I feel like we're watching. Like it, and it's whoa. It's so bad, yet everybody believes it. It's wild. It's really wild. It's like watching a bad soap opera. I mean, it's like Spanish soap operas. That's what it's like what we're watching right now. But yeah,
I
you might find it.
Rock'em Sock'em? No, that's
I
not it.
think
No, it was
I don't know.
robots.
I can look later too. I can visualize it. I just can't remember the name of
Yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
How do you feel like people are missing the plot then? Not to name people,
just
but like
no
what are they
losing the plot. Like it's
like
just
the
one of my
housing?
favorite
Let's talk about the housing
British.
stuff.
Yeah. Everybody just gets stuck on their track. And I mean, I hope I don't. I and because I really do try to challenge myself all the time and think you know, what the opposite of what I, you know, really like still man the arguments and not using chat GBT, using my own brain. Um, and so like let's start with the one that's probably not as sexy. That's Fannie and Freddie buying mortgage-backed securities. And it was like people I knew just started flipping out. And I was like, but they've been doing that since May. they've they've already bought 50 billion and sales are abysmal. You know, they're abysmal. Have rates come down a little bit? Yeah, for sure. But it hasn't made a big impact on sales. And then I also kind of have shared, historically speaking, the Fed bought mortgage-backed securities in 2009. Home prices went down, rates went down, mortgage rates went down, and just the reminder to the audience that the Fed does not control mortgage rates. They track the 10-year treasury, which is controlled by the bond market. As much as Besant wants to get that 10-year under 4, this is why they're doing this. This is why Fannie and Freddie are buying MBS, because they cannot get that 10-year under 4. So what they're doing instead is buying the MBS to tighten the spread between mortgage rates and the 10-year. And so they've been doing that since May. Hasn't impacted sales. We're going to see a slightly stronger December than we did last year. I just did my forecast. We'll get existing home sales tomorrow. I do a historical correlation to it. So it's going to be up month over month and year over year, but not huge, So, but it hasn't like really, got sales moving. Now, the announcement itself got rates down to below our lowest point last year, but I have a feeling that announcement's going to cycle through very quickly, and it's not going to have the impact that they think it is. And so everybody's like, oh, 200 billion, this is going to make home prices go up. And, at the end of the Fed buying mortgage-backed securities, 700 billion they bought from, I think, January 2021 till they started raising rates in March of 2022, and rates went up. So, it's not this doesn't always necessarily bring down mortgage rates because of just the other things that are going on in the market. And you've got delinquency rising right now. And so, probably a lot of people don't have this information yet because, I can see it in my client books. John Comiskey looks at the MBS data, which comes out before everything else. And delinquency is up again in December, and serious delinquency is up. And so you've got all these things happening at once, but people get in this track where like buying MBS, is going to make home prices go higher. And it's like, well, I've got several examples when that isn't the truth. That's not what happened. But there was a time period in 2020 when it was, because everybody quickly got in the money to refinance. And so they could do a cash out refinance. I mean, you and I have talked about those refinances, and home equity, things like that. But people were in the money. There are so fewer people that would be in the money now if we got rates below 3%. But if we did, that would be impactful. But at the same time, you also have credit availability being limited. You've got the highest purchase rejection rate for mortgage that since the Fed started tracking it, highest mortgage refinance rejection rate. And so you got to take all these things in at once to figure out, okay, will this impact and how will it impact? But people get in their lanes. And it's funny talking about Ed Dowd, when this was announced, one of my followers said something like, well, Olive Fintwit now thinks that QE is back with buying of these mortgage-backed securities, and prices are going to go through the roof, and inflation will come again or something. And I just laughed at that. And then Ed laughed at my laugh, and it was just like people just flip out. They just and it's typically when they've just kind of been in the same track. They've just been thinking the same thing versus constantly, going out and sort of, and that's not everybody. I'm not saying that about everybody that thinks that that's going to make prices go higher, but a lot of them are just sort of are stuck, And now I could be wrong, of course. But I truly think that with lower rates, mortgage rates specifically, we're going to see more price discovery because all of those people that delisted last year are going to think it's a good time to sell, and they're going to list all that inventory. And your buyer is going to have a lot of negotiating power. But, I personally am probably one of the only housing bears out there that wants to see higher sales for exactly that reason, because I think that's how we'll get price discovery. I mean, because if these, and I hate talking the generational divide, but if these boomers don't wake up soon, it's going to be a bloodbath. And, they've just been listening to mainstream media, and all they know is it's a shortage, and there's estimate. And, the builders are out there aggressively. I mean, we just got new home sales today. Sales were up, and up higher than kind of the seasonal average for the builders. But guess what was really down? And that's the other evidence I'm relying on. The builders have been doing permanent buy downs for a long time, meaning that they permanently buy down the loan, the interest rate, and they've been below 5%, even sometimes lower than 4%. And that has not made prices go up. In fact, the builders, what we're seeing now is new home prices are much lower than existing home sales prices. And you and I have talked about, historically speaking, that only happened before last year. That only happened 1 month, in like June of 2005 before. But we've had this, flip for off and on since the beginning of 24. So, I think lower rates, everybody thinks that's what's going to do it, but it's not going to do it. And those that, on the other side of it, the people that, they believe that lower rates would, make home prices go higher. And I don't. Now, I could be wrong, but I don't see that.
Well, and I think the whole thing with this is not being an absolutist, right? Where you're tied to one ideology.
Right.
That's the other thing too, is like,
right.
This divide right now. Why are things becoming more divided? In my view, there's some people that are just such absolutists. They think it's this way. It's all in or nothing. I don't know. Yeah. I mean, when I started all this, it was not to be an absolutist, and I'm wrong more than I'm right with everything.
Right. It's to learn. I started this to learn and to bring people together is really what I wanted. I didn't want to make anybody feel stupid, or, I really wanted dialogue, and constantly I'm testing out what I'm saying, trying to figure out if I'm right or I'm wrong. And like you, I'm wrong often. But this one, I just, I see it as a very, very low probability that this campaign is going to result in higher home prices. Now, could something come on top of it and that happen? I don't know what, honestly. I mean, you've got all the things, like you've got this crazy stock market, so you've got this idea that, that the economy's fine. And that's sort of a perception to some degree. You theoretically have a strongish labor market. I mean, if you're watching mainstream media, you've got this promise of all this technology. So yeah, it's, I from a narrative perspective in mainstream media, I don't know what else could go right to make people think that things are better than they already think they are. And obviously not you and me, not Ed Dowd, not a lot of people that study this, but if you're just watching CNBC, you may get one story about, like, that seems like a one-off about a certain cohort not doing so well or something. But the main message is the economy is resilient.
Yeah, I was telling Ed about Mitch and Travis yesterday, and the whole home value inflation from municipalities, and I said, which I've talked about, I'm going to go on a limb. It's not just in one city or two cities.
Oh, no.
Just like the fraud in Minneapolis. Like, that's, if it's one, it's probably everywhere. It's
everywhere.
And the fraud in the real estate, residential, as bad as you think it might be, usually with that stuff, it's like somebody's finances.
100%.
They're behind on one thing. I learned this when I was in credit card collections, when I was in college. As bad as we could look at the credit report, so you knew how bad it was. Mm-hmm. But as bad as you think something is, it's way, way worse.
It's always worse.
Even than what you imagine.
Always worse. Yep.
So real estate, I mean, I think I asked Mitch and Travis, I said, the median price of a home, let's say it's $300. What's the true value of it? Mm-hmm. Maybe, was it 50% they said? maybe a little bit more,
I
but
mean, I would have gone to 150. I mean,
cut
that's
it in
what I
half.
would,
You would cut
yeah,
it in
I
half.
would have been, yeah, you know, yeah, it's, and, all these municipalities are, and it's so funny. Every time I do these deep dives of these cities, they're all in some massive budget shortfall, but we're not hearing about that on the national news. I'll hear about, like, I'll find it because I'm digging in that city, and I'll just say Chicago budget deficit, and I'll get like 50 articles or whatever that are local, nothing national. But now you've got like Chicago, San Francisco, like San Diego, all these cities are in budget deficits. And everybody just thinks that the government can print and do whatever, but already these municipalities are running out of money. So, and if they really do cut off this federal aid, I mean, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy is all I can, because it's already bad. It's already bad, Michael, in these cities where they had gotten that American Rescue Plan money, thought that that would just keep coming, or thought they would get the population, back to your point about Travis and Mitch, to, to keep those home prices going higher. And so they get that tax revenue. But yeah, like if they cut off federal funding to these places for some of this stuff, it is going to be really bad. It's going to be Detroit all over the country.
Well, but I don't see them doing that though, because at the end of the day, they don't want the knives coming out for them, right? And they know if they turn off the spigot in that regard, that could potentially open that up. But let me share with you this too. And it's just story irks me so bad because it's where I'm from. But in Northeast Ohio, they are allocating $600 million of a total. It's now listed at $2.8 billion. But what I've been told, it's going to cost over $4 billion to build this new stadium for their football team.
Oh yeah, we've talked about it.
They're taking $600 million of uncollected assets or funds of taxpayer money that's in an account, and they're going to put that towards the stadium. So all the things that we just touched on, and they're taking this money to build a dome with restaurants that is like Cheesecake Factory, your typical chain restaurants of these outdoor malls. They all look the same.
Yeah.
But that's where these people are going to allocate money towards.
Yeah. I mean, until they, and so even let's say if they don't do they don't, shut down some of the federal funding for some of these programs. I think they will in Minnesota. I mean, they may, just do it for the blue states. Who knows? But Medicaid cuts are going to be massive. And, you've got cities like San Francisco where you have large, like in San Francisco, it's Kaiser Permanente or whatever that's called. And these large health care organizations who've been making bank on Medicaid for a really long time. And when that gets cut, it's going to be brutal. I mean, I don't know if we talked about this last time, but there's a local hospital here that got wiped out by Helene. But it's not going to be rebuilt because it's one of these rural hospitals that's going to be impacted by those Medicaid cuts. And so we're losing a whole hospital. And so I think that a lot of these municipalities have not come to terms with what's actually coming their way. I think they're hoping for, a last minute Hail Mary, which may come, to your point, if they may have to, just like the subsidies or whatever, they may have to do something. But yeah, I mean, this could get really ugly. And that's going to be what's fascinating to watch because we're in this election year, what all are they going to pull? But I'm kind of I'm a person who thinks, yes, there's certain things that can be manipulated and controlled, but when the horse is really out of the barn, things can take on kind of a mind of their own and a lot of unintended consequences. So there's just a lot happening all at once, and nobody really knows how it's all going to end up.
Well, that's one thing about Trump, whether people like him or hate him. I mean, he thrives in drama and chaos.
And chaos. Mm-hmm.
I never seen anything like it like this. I mean,
I haven't.
we'll
I
never see
mean,
this again. We're never going to see this again in the political landscape.
I don't know. I don't think so. I mean, I was just, every time it's a new year, I try to really think about like what happened last year. And I mean, I'm seriously getting the years mixed up. It's like 23 and 24 combined, because it just seems impossible. So we're coming up on the 3-year anniversary of my first road trip. I just can't even fathom that, Michael, that it's been 3 years. And now, of course, a year is not really that long if you think about it. But still, it's just time has sped up and it's so much has happened. And so I hope you're right. I hope we never see this again. I hope this isn't status quo, but it's wild.
And the other thing too with the midterms, not that I'm paying attention to actual election races this year. I'm trying to make it a point. I mean, I will, but I'm trying to make it a point not to like. I'm not really interested in having candidates
Right.
on, and but I will say this: it's going to be entertaining as hell watching Trump go back and forth with Democrat. I mean, it's just and the fact that you're going to have the UFC is fighting on the White House lawn in June. Like, I mean. Where are we at with all this? Like, there's going to be a cage fight on the White House lawn. Like,
It's a cartoon. It's a cartoon, and you can only imagine how people will look back at this time in history. I mean, it is just. I'm listening to right now. I forget the name of it, but it's called about the madness of crowds or something like that, and just mass delusion. And I mean, there are just so many of these things that people just fully believe, and then they wake up one day and they're like, oh, that was totally a lie. It's like I think it's called like the Philosopher's Stone that I'm listening to right now. 1300s, 1400s, 1500s. People believed you could turn like rocks into gold, and if you had the Philosopher's Stone, I think I'm getting it right. And I mean, this went on for 300 years. People believe this, and it was just a bunch of crooks, just a bunch of people that would say I found it, and then they would disappear, and or they would already be rich and pretend they got the money. I mean, just all kinds of shenanigans, right? And it went on for 300 years. I think longer than that, or whatever. And so it's just we as a species, really need these stories. It's really it's interesting. I don't know.
I just had I looked down. True Social just put out a ticker that Trump is touting the economic success, and the quote read, "It's time to invest," or "Time to invest." That was the headline.
Okie doke. I mean, who's going to invest when things are this chaotic? I mean, this is it. It's my favorite kind of story of the past couple of weeks has been the oil executives being like, hmm, like, maybe pay us back for all that money that we're owed that hasn't been paid to us. So what do you want us to do? It was just, and now I know, I think, was it Exxon that came out and said, okay, we'll do something. But I mean, come on. What are they going to really do? That you can say you're going to do X, Y, and Z, but are you really going to do it? So I don't know, Michael. I'm at a loss for
Well,
words.
and the Powell thing, isn't he leaving? I don't know when he's leaving. Ed and I both. I thought it was spring, but then
He
Ed
could
wasn't
stay
sure.
on. Yeah, he could if he wanted to. Not as chair. So Danielle did an open letter where the actual Fed board could vote for. I believe they could vote. They in their bylaws. I'm going to get this all wrong, but I think that they can actually vote for the chair, and but he can stay on. I think for a while. I think and she talks about it being similar to why can't I remember his name? I don't think it was
Bring it.
Chesney, but anyway, so I think there's something that, but they're not all going to agree or get along or actually, go against Trump. So, but yeah, he can, although yes, his term is up, he can stay on the Fed for some time.
So what's the point if he's going to leave? What's the point of doing all this?
It's just theater. It's theater. I mean, we wouldn't have gotten the hostage video. Is he tanning now too? Like Powell also had kind of the raccoons around it, and it's like red down here. It's like, dude, I don't know.
It's a superhero movie. It's like when Tony Stark got captured by the Arabs, the Arabs in the first Iron Man, and they did the video. Like,
I've told you I haven't seen a single
oh
one of
yeah,
these.
yeah.
I've just seen the preview.
So what was he? What was Trump talking? What was the sexy headline then? From the real estate
I
standpoint,
guess the institutionals, we're going to ban the institutionals. It's, if
no
you were going to
longer they're no longer going to be able to.
buy, and so, yeah, 2015 would have been the time to do something like that. And I don't think you would have to do something like that. They're less than 2% of the market. It's very important where they are. I mean, they have a massive impact on the market in San Antonio, Tampa, Charlotte, Atlanta. But nationally, they're a very small part of the problem. Your mom and pop investors are on a much bigger share, of the housing market. And so this is they floated this before the election. It did well. It tested well. And so, you know, um, this sounds like they care about Main Street, but what I think's happening is they're talking about phase one right now, which is banning them from purchasing, which none of them want to purchase them right now. None of them. If they've purchased any, they've bought them from their friends so their friends can make sure that the assets they have pledged to their lending facility are not degraded in value. And so they've been trading them like cards. But other than that, they've been net sellers. I was in the room with one in September who said they are rehabbing the properties as soon as the lease is up and selling them as quickly as possible. And they have been chasing price for months. And so, I filmed in front of one in San Antonio a year ago, where they were cutting those prices left, right, and center because they gotten a massive property tax bill because they don't get the homestead exemption. And so, yeah, they want out. They absolutely want out. And so I think that this is the setup for a bailout where they'll use one of these programs that they're looking at in committee right now, to either buy these homes explicitly from the institutionals or effect a way that some sort of nonprofit that's, on the edge, that public-private partnership can buy them at a certain price floor and then turn around and offer them through an affordable housing program. Like, okay, if you make 75% of household median income, you're going to be eligible to buy this home for, maybe a reduced rate or a certain price. And so I think this is actually a bailout, a setup for a bailout for the institutionals. I mean, Schwartzman, head of Blackstone, huge, huge mega donor.
Will they get it in your view?
The bailout?
Yeah.
One way or the other. I mean, now there'll probably be winners and losers, depending. But yeah, I mean, I think Blackstone will likely get some kind of bailout. And, it may not even look that way to some people, but when you know how this stuff happens in the background, like that's ultimately a way to put some kind of floor on the losses that they're seeing.
What would that do to home prices? Will it change on the retail side at all? Impact anything?
So I think that probably people within the administration thinks that it will sustain home prices. It will keep them from falling because the cities where the institutionals are selling, you're seeing year-over-year price declines. You're seeing it because
Phoenix,
they do
one
have,
of them.
Phoenix, it has a large share. Phoenix has seen year-over-year price declines. They haven't. Phoenix is still doesn't make sense to me. Still delusional. Um, so I don't think the fire selling is as bad in Phoenix as it is in, say, Atlanta and San Antonio, but it'll get there. It'll get there. Um, so yeah, I think it'll be kind of net neutral. Um, but if I'm a savvy boomer mom and pop landlord, I'm going to realize that a big buyer is leaving the market. Even though they haven't been buying for 3 years, it'll sound like a big buyer's leaving the market. And that might wake up some of your kind of mom and pop landlords that are thinking they were going to sell anyway. So we might get more inventory. At the same time, what could happen is that the institutionals could be like, okay, let's not fire sale right now. Let's see how all this shakes out. Um, and that they could slow their offloading of properties. So there's all kinds of things that could happen, but I think net, it's not going to have a massive impact.
And you think prices will still stay at a certain level? You're not going to see a plummet or a sharp decrease.
So this is an interesting question, and so I think once the national narrative turns, once it really starts, I think you could see a very sharp decline, similar to the way we did in the last cycle. I think it was 2008 or nine where we got a 12% drop, like year over year. Um, but I don't know that I see it happening in 26 because the midterms, unless it's a crisis that you can then take advantage of. And that's kind of what I'll be thinking about. Like, how could this be used for advantage on both sides? And how could they manage narrative? Because what you are not going to be able to stop unless you put a moratorium on it is this increase in delinquency, and it's happening. It's really happening. And so by Q2 of 2026, we're going to have serious delinquency and foreclosures. Now they could put a moratorium on that, but that you're not going to be able to stop. So I'm just really trying to think, how would they manage the message? And it would take a true cracking in the narrative, which we've started the cracks in the national narrative, but we're not all the way there by any stretch of the imagination. So I don't know that we would see such a plummet this year, but it could come in 27. But you think about 2008 was an election year as well. So I don't know,
Yeah, I try to look back on that as memory as best I can. And is that what clinched Obama to win in 2008? All that, or he was going to win anyway, though.
Yeah, I
Because
think
McCain was such a bad candidate.
yeah, and change, Michael, change
And hope.
and hope and change, hope and change. Yeah, that was that campaign. Anyway,
And Bush kept it. He was. I mean, he was the one that started all those bailouts under his administration because he didn't want that collapsing while he was still in office. Bailed out the automakers.
and Obama put the bow on it.
Yeah, whether there wasn't there it was like 80 billion or something left of the bailout or something like that Obama had for over the 300 that Bush was given. And I'm getting the numbers wrong, but it was something along those lines. And yeah, he left a little bit for Obama, but it was like 80 billion or something.
Yeah, Obama became the best friend of Wall Street. Nobody went to jail. Like that all could have gone down very, very differently, and it didn't. So, but yeah, so that that's kind of how you got to think. It's like, because honestly, home prices were coming down, in 23, and then the bailout of the banks, the whole AI narrative, Nvidia, that kind of thing really kind of stopped that. And so you were able to get through the election year because then they did this crazy program for FHA, all kinds of things to really keep things going another year. So I'm focused on trying to figure out what they could do to keep it going for another year. Because it seemed, I mean, like I said, 3 years ago is when I went out on the road. You could see all of this happening then, all of it. But yet, take Phoenix. There was an article in the Wall Street Journal. I posted it on X where they were talking about the rent concessions there and how the multifamily is overbuilt. And I mean, I can remember any time I would talk about Phoenix and say it was overbuilt, and I would be attacked like viciously because there are some crazy RE bros in Phoenix. But now they're admitting it. And this is what I saw in 23. You and I talked about it when I got back. You were able to get a rent reduction, or at least it didn't go up that first year, and then not so much the next year, right?
They're trying to increase me now. They're trying to do a 5% increase right now.
You need to show them that Wall Street Journal article and say, I don't think so. What are you going to do for me? I'm serious. I have people on my feed every day saying they did exactly that and they're winning. But yeah, it's a Wall Street. I mean, I think you need to have that conversation with them.
Yeah, you have to send that to me. I must have missed that post that you did.
Yeah, it's on my I'm not posting much these days, so it's just. But yeah, I'll send it to you.
Well, the other thing is too is and mutual friend of ours, Locke Sganapathy, in regards to the auto loans. That. I mean, I feel like auto prices have stabilized because I look all the time, but they haven't gone down. I thought they would have decreased more by now.
Same. But, it's like you had that pull forward of demand because of the tariffs. Everybody was like, oh my gosh, I have to buy a car now, which sustained them for a little while. I mean, that's what's so fascinating, Michael. It's like you look at all this highest repossessions, higher than 2008, like all this stuff. And yet prices don't seem to be moving. And this is when you just have to start questioning the data, right? Just like in housing, Cox has a stranglehold on all that data. And so I don't know that we're actually, really getting the true story. Because when the industry controls the narrative, when are they going to capitulate? I mean, it'll be the last moment possible.
What is your thoughts on the credit card executive order?
I gotta tell you, when that came through on Friday, I was like, I can't even process this. Like, I mean, what did they promise Diamond? I mean, that had to be a phone call, right? And he talked to, and they had their earnings today, but I mean, that's massive. I mean, what is that going to do to credit? It's going to tighten credit, which they did say today. But, that's a lot of their interest income makes up a big part of their income. And so overnight, it's just like gun to the head. I mean, capitalism, who cares, And look, I don't like people being charged ridiculous rates on credit cards. I don't. It's usury. I don't have any credit cards for that reason, and I tell people to say no to debt slavery. But, these are companies who have shareholders that, like, overnight, you kind of reduce the value of their company. And also what I find very funny about this, and I think, Michael, this is what you and I need to do from this point forward. It's just about laughing. Okay. What I also find funny is like, I was like, wait, is Trump now Elizabeth Warren? And then I don't know if it was you or Jack or somebody who said, oh no, this was a bill that Bernie Sanders had. I was like, in some ways you do have to appreciate the genius of it. I'm just going to steal from the Democrats. And then, what are they going to run on? I mean, they're going to run on data centers for sure, but what else, so it's crazy. So,
well, and it would also too, if these institutions cut off credit, I mean, people live on credit.
Oh yeah. Oh, I mean, which is why, I changed my entire life. I guess 3 years ago, like my entire life. And I was like, zero debt. I could see all this coming. I was like, the last thing you want to do during a cycle like this is have a lot of debt because you will get absolutely crushed. So but you're right. I mean, that's the thing. They run on, and, they shift off into buy now, pay later. Next thing you know, we're gonna have, and it's not even gonna be payday lenders anymore. It's gonna be like people on the side of the street, like like with bags of I don't know, cash or what. I mean, it's like we're devolving, I can't, it's getting wild out there. I keep saying that, but I mean, overnight, sorry, you were banking on that interest income. You ain't getting it.
You're getting half now. You're getting half now. And well, here's the other thing. How can you do that in an executive order? And that because I think you have to have that.
That would have to be legislated. Yeah, that would have, yeah. But, Warren, I guess today said, oh, yeah, we can co-sponsor that bill. I'm just like, it is. I think this is what we should do, though. We should just start laughing. And I got to say, I think, like I've said already in the show, the Powell video is what sent me over the edge. Not just. But you just think about, like, look at that man. Okay. Talk about, I think if, 50 years from now, looking back, I would think, why on earth would the entire world be looking at what that man has to say? But everybody has been transfixed by what that man has had to say since 2020, right? I mean, was he? I think so. It's all running together.
Trump appointed him.
Yeah, that's term. Right. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. I mean, and I just, when I first started diving back into macro, I would be the same. I'd be like, oh, it's 2:30. I got to watch this Fed video. And then I was like, why? Probably after the first year, I was like, why is anybody watching this nonsense? And like, okay, let's read the transcript. Now I don't even read the transcript. Like, I'll search it for housing if he says something about housing. But I don't even do that anymore because I'm just like, this. I mean, what are we doing, people? I mean, what are we doing? And I always think of the dot plot as like, like chicken, like how they would throw chicken bones, like in certain cultures, to see what's gonna happen. I mean, that's what the dot plot is chicken bones. So anyway, I think this is another madness, and we've been mad, like completely mad for a long time. I think really since the GFC.
Well, and talking about, the Fed meetings, I mean, how many, regular people, what do you think Powell's going to do tomorrow? What do you think Powell's going to do? What do you think he's going to do?
He's going to get drunk. That's what I think.
Is he going to hike? Is he not going to hike? Is he quarter,
right.
Half?
What's that? And he'll say something and everybody's like, oh my God, he pivoted. And I'm just like
watch party. Watch
6
party.
Months ago.
Sex in the City watch party.
Yeah,
Fed watch
he did
party.
it 6 months ago. And that didn't happen. And sure enough, next month, totally different thing. But it's like people take it as gospel, right? It's like it is. It's or like 90210 or Melrose Place. It's just like, what is happening? Sorry.
The Fed watch party. It's a Fed watch party. Well,
yeah.
Here's the other thing too. I don't think we've talked about this before, but the how you can gamble on everything today. You could literally gamble everything.
Yeah.
Is it Kalshi? Kalshi's the one company.
Maybe. Yeah.
But I'm sure there's more. But yeah, you can bet on everything.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So Polymarket just did home prices, but there's a company called Parcel. They're doing that already in micro markets. You can bet on home prices in micro markets. And I'm just like, what? By the way, that's the data provider that's who gives Lance Lambert his data.
So you can bet. What do you mean you can bet on home prices? Can you do over?
You can
under?
bet they're going. Yeah, like they're going to go down. They're going to go up. They're going to go down. They're going to go up. Like, and Parcel does it at like a city level, whereas I think Polymarket. I haven't checked it out, but I think it probably is like national. Although they might do certain cities. But this is what I find interesting. I was talking to somebody and they said, well, Polymarket has the odds of XYZ that this is going to happen. So, this will probably happen. And I'm like, how many people are on Polymarket? Like, do we think this is a true representation of the United States? I mean, we get into these like just I mean, everybody says but it's the echo chamber, but it's also like, you're in your sphere and you just think that's how the world is. It's like people leave your house, leave your house, leave your house.
Can't you can't
Talk
you
to other humans.
can't you bet on who the next Fed chair is going to be? Isn't that in Poly Market?
Oh, I'm sure. Oh, yeah, yeah. That it's definitely, how many rate cuts, blah, blah, blah. I'm just like, listen, my grandfather was a big gambler and he lost the farm. And so I've never been a gambler.
My dad too. My dad too.
And one time just because it's like some work thing, somebody convinced me a couple of times to play roulette, and I started winning big. And you can tell what happens to you when that happens. Like you can't leave. Like when you're winning big should be the time you should be able to be like, oh, let me take it. Let me head out of here. No, it is like something in our psychology. I think if I went again, I wouldn't do that, but I could feel myself like, of course, I wasn't risking anything big because of, my past and what happened to my grandfather's farm. But um, yeah, it's why. I mean, I think this is something we've inherited. I mean, it's in our genes to some degree, and that a lot of people just can't stop themselves. And I think we're just a nation of gamblers now. I mean, that's what's, be it sports, be it, defense. What tie is he going to wear tomorrow, Michael? What tie? What tie could he wear?
Can you do home prices like local level too? Is it limited to nationwide, or can you do like by zone?
I don't know.
And I wonder if it narrows all the way down into like zip codes. I bet.
Well, Parcel does very, very micro markets. I don't know what Polymarket does. Yeah. So it's
They,
just,
and that just shows too, like how cities like Vegas are a thing of the past because this stuff is so accessible. And if you want to go play table games, every city has gambling. But if you want to
yeah,
do
give me the, go ahead.
no, any type of fantasy,
Mhm.
baseball, politics, and I think on the politics side, I think you can do it globally. I think you can bet on other countries.
Yeah. What's the bull case for Vegas? What, what is the bull case? I mean, they're getting hammered right now, but what's the bull case? I wonder.
So I talked to you about Cleveland and the stadium, right? They're getting this financing. Vegas is financing a new baseball stadium. The Oakland A's are moving there, so it's going to be where the Tropicana was. I think they already broke ground on it, and because I have family there, and I was like, what is your guys' solution to like what's happening? Because I don't know, maybe I'm way off here. Young people, first of all, they don't need to travel there to gamble.
Yeah.
Maybe the parties, because I mean, when I was in my early 20s, it's different now, but in my early 20s, I loved to go to the clubs and the bars and be out all night. And I had family that worked in the industry, cousins. So it was, the access of being able to get into these places was.
It was so cheap, though. It was also cheap.
Yeah,
Right?
how could these young people afford it? I mean,
Exactly.
it's
No.
$40 to park at some of these hotels if you're
Plus,
a
they'd have
local.
to leave the basement. I mean, I'm sorry.
Well, yeah, well, right. But what will the future of that city? But they're building a ton there too.
Well, it's, I was there when they were still hadn't completed the F1, and I was just like, this is the top of Vegas, is what I thought at the time, and it's pretty much, and it was terrible. It's like, the strip was okay. It was reasonably clean, but you go right one street over, downtown Vegas, or even like where Hubert Humphrey Center was, with like what's Ruth Chris, Capitol Grill, like all these completely vacant. The streets to get over there, Michael, like potholes the size of me. I mean, I was just like, what? And even the streets right around the F1 track were like that too. I was like, what the heck is happening? I mean, who? It's wild. I keep saying that. I'm sorry, but it's just, I feel like people have just lost their minds. And they're not paying attention to what's going on around them. And, or they think, oh, it's just that one road that has that huge pothole. It's not all over Vegas or all over Phoenix, especially on certain sides of Phoenix. Um, but yeah, people just they don't go out and look. And they stay in whatever sheltered, narrative sheltered view that they have. If you're an executive going to visit your construction site, you're probably in some sort of sedan or limo where you're not looking up, you're just looking down at your phone. So you don't actually see what's going on around you. And I think that's a lot of it, is that people are looking down at their phones and they're not looking around at what's really happening. And they'll actually believe what they're looking at on their phone, even if they looked up and saw the complete opposite in front of them, they would believe what they're looking at on their phone. That's what
Well,
it feels like.
well, and in Vegas too, I watched a video. I mean, I don't take this for what it is, but they, and how these hotels now they want to cater to the really really wealthy, like the top of the
Hmm.
K.
Yep.
But is that enough to carry through the city? I don't know. Maybe it is, but in relation to, and this is what they were saying in the video. Like it used to be fun. Regular people go to Treasure Island. Those boats, that's
Yeah.
gone. The
Yeah.
MGM, or not the MGM, the Mirage with the volcano eruption. They tore that hotel down. They're building a Hard Rock. The fountains in Bellagio. All these things that it gave it charm. So it's now you're
Hmm.
removing that. Is there
Hmm.
enough at the top of the K to financially?
Because if there was, Michael, that then it wouldn't be in the trouble it's in. Just like the housing market. People try to make that argument about the housing market, like the top of the K is going to keep it going. They could have. It's been frozen for 3 years. We've had the worst sales since 1995. We've increased population by over 20%. They can't keep, they don't want to keep it going. And it's the same here in like Gatlinburg, Sevierville, Tennessee. This was a middle class. This was, where middle class folks would go to vacation, relatively inexpensive. What did they do? Just like Vegas. Because what happened during COVID is Californians, New Yorkers, the top of the K were looking for places that were open and they could go, right? A lot of those places were in the Sun Belt. And so they went places they probably will go once in their lives and never go again. If I'm super rich and I'm not getting paid to be at a party in Vegas, why would I go to a party in Vegas? That's, what? So, the only reason I think that Vegas lasted as long as it did is because you'd have all those influencers go do those big parties down there. And so to think the Kardashians, that whole thing, but that's it's just over. And so I don't think you're going to be pulling the top of the K to Vegas for what, an Oakland A's baseball game. I know.
I mean, unless the high end roller Asians, because that was one of the things that they relied on for a long time. I don't know anymore if it's relevant, but it used to be. I mean, it was so influential that I remember when the MGM first opened, there was a line that you had to walk underneath, and they had to remove that because it was taboo. I don't know if it was all of Asia or wherever there were high rollers coming in, they would not go to the MGM because walking underneath it was considered bad luck. Now, is there enough of those people or those quote unquote whales to carry the
Yeah.
city? I mean, there'll be
I don't think,
hotels there. There's always going to be some hotels there,
yeah.
but
Yeah. But, I think if the Asians can go to other places, I think it's what, Malaysia or somewhere where they have nice, really nice casinos and things like. So I don't think so. Because they're not doing it now. Tourism is really down there. So I don't see a bull case for Vegas unless, they outlaw gambling everywhere but Vegas again or something. Like I just don't see it.
it's kind of
And
like.
there it is. You
Oh,
go
God,
ahead.
sorry. No, no. Finish what you say.
You go. No, I'm done.
No, I was just saying high end restaurants that like those seem to be doing okay in comparison to the middle of the road and lower end restaurants. So that's why I think
Mhm.
of that analogy. Maybe it's not a fair analogy, but like high end restaurants seem to be, in certain places seem to be thriving because there's money. People that are at that top level, they don't care.
Yeah. And they don't care, but they're not going to come to Vegas every day. You know what I mean? Like they're going to go off to their ski resort in Vail. They're going to go to Europe. How many times a year are they really going to go to Vegas? I guess is what I'm saying. To go to those restaurants. And it's, personally, I don't find it very pleasant there. But, that's me.
I like what Jim Kunstler said. It's a utopia of clowns.
A clowns. I know. I remember because I talked to you when I got back. And I'm really hoping that was my last trip there ever. It was, and that was March of 23. Because that place is just, I cannot stand it.
Yeah.
Cannot stand it. Yeah.
If I never step foot in that city again, I'd be fine with it.
I think I would be so fine with that. But they always do those conferences, but that's even petering out. That was the only strong, like when you looked at the tourism numbers, the only strong or strength they had was the conferences. But I think people are like, it's too expensive to do a conference there now. And, the employees complain and like, it's that do have to go to the conference because it's too expensive. I mean, I remember when you could get a hotel room in Vegas, like, so I used to play pool, kind of like semi-professionally, and the big tournament was in Vegas, and we could get hotel rooms for like $30, and you never had to buy any food, and you never had to buy any alcohol, and so it was basically, your ticket was maybe $200 to get out there, and so it was super cheap. So it was kind of like stupid not to go, if you know what I mean. And that's completely changed.
Where could people find you? We could have kept going, but I know you got a hard stop. Well,
Well, I mean, we can go for a few more minutes if you want to. If there's something we haven't covered that you want to cover. I mean, our general losing our minds kind of, maybe. Go ahead. What are you going to
finish
say?
your thought. Just go ahead.
No, I just mean, it's been an interesting few days, and it's only been a few days, but I mean, honestly, the fact that I'm laughing today is kind of a miracle because I talked to you, I called you. I was just, after I got into an argument with a family member who just kind of lost it, I was really depressed. I was like, this is awful. Like, I don't want to see this. And I think I've moved from depression now to just I can't, I'm laughing instead because I don't know what else to do about some of these things. Not laughing yet. I can't laugh about the violence, but just some of this other stuff. But maybe that's all we can do at this point is have a sense of humor about it.
Yeah, and I look at it and I've said this. I wish none of it was happening, but the reality of it is, in the spaces that we're in, it provides so much opportunity. And again, like or hate Trump, there's so much opportunity for conversations to be had. And and this year, it's going to be pure entertainment.
Yeah,
I can't wait to watch that fight on the White House lawn. I'm not even a huge UFC guy, but I can't wait to watch it. How could you not watch that? You're never going to see it again. Right? I mean, you're gonna literally see a cage on the White House lawn, and fighters. I don't know where they're gonna come out of the ballroom or something, and we're gonna walk out onto the lawn into the octagon. Well, the president and whoever else, I'm sure Vance will be there too. Like, they're gonna be sitting there watching on the lawn. What are we doing?
I don't know. I don't know.
I mean, are you going to watch that?
No.
No. I'm totally going to watch that.
Yeah,
how could you not watch that? That's probably going to be the biggest sporting event in history of viewership.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm good.
Where can people find you?
They can find me if they want to after this conversation at M3 Melody Substack. And I, even sign up for the free version. I give a lot of the thesis, a lot of the data in the free version. M3 Melody Substack, and on occasion, M3 Melody YouTube when I feel like there's something worthwhile to say.
Yeah, people, don't be cheap. Just go on Melody Substack and support what she's doing, and because it does take a lot of time and a lot of effort to get this information out. So, yeah, don't be a cheapskate, man. Cough up a few bucks. And thanks for doing this as always. And might have another a mashup here soon. We don't want to say who because I don't want anyone to take this idea, but might be another mashup in the works. So
awesome.
And people do love the you and Dave column though. People never they don't get tired of that.
That was great. I love talking to Dave because, I get to talk about things I don't ever get to talk about. I mean, this is one of the reasons I love talking to you is because, I just say the same stuff on all the other podcasts. And that's, it's there are a lot more facets to my personality. So I like to be able to just kind of, be able to talk about a wide range of topics.
Maybe the next time we talk,
thank you.
that the insurance companies will be blown up because Trump is going to take a hammer to them. Right? That's the video. That's what I'm getting slammed on my feed right now.
He's Hammerman.
Yeah, Captain America. Yeah.
There we go.
We should come up with a logo, you and I together, and this is not a superhero movie because you know what? Honestly, I think people would buy that.
Yeah, let's do some merch.
This is not a superhero movie. This is not the fourth quarter of a football game.
Jerome Powell has not been taken hostage.
Fed watch party. That would be another one. Fed watch party.
Yeah.
Like Sex and the City from way back when.
Right.
What's he going to do? Is he going to go increase, decrease? Is he going to pivot? Right? What is he going to pivot? What a world we're in.
Ooh,
Thanks,
okay.
Mel. Look forward to the next
you.
one. Mic drop.
All right. Thanks.